The first surprise about the Avengers is that it doesn't begin with John Steed at all. When the series launches in 1961, it is built around Dr David Keel, played by Ian Hendry. Keel is the emotional centre of the programme, a man pulled into violence and investigation after his fiancée is murdered. Steed, played by Patrick Macnee, is a secondary figure, shadowy, ambiguous, and very much not the star. This version of the Avengers is a straight crime drama. There is no pop art aesthetic, no stylised eccentricity, no sense that the show is winking at the audience. It is closer in tone to contemporary ITV thrillers than to what the Avengers would later become. And then something happens that, by the standards of early 1960s television, should have ended the programme. Ian Hendry leaves. At this point, most series would either recast or collapse. The lead is gone. The premise is built around him. Instead, the Avengers makes its first decisive move. It quietly recenters the show around Steed and carries on as if this had always been the plan. No on-screen explanation, no dramatic handover, just a different programme next week. Cathy Gale is often misremembered as the beginning of the Avengers, but she is something much more revealing. Proof that the programme has learned it can survive transformation. With Cathy Gale, Steed becomes the constant. He is no longer a supporting player, he is the anchor around which the show reorganises itself. The tone shifts as well. The series becomes more adult, more self-assured, and more willing to play with the balance of power between its leads. Cathy Gale is not merely a decorative addition. She is competent, intellectual, physically capable, and, crucially, not subordinate to Steed. This changes the dynamic of the programme entirely. The show now revolves around chemistry, not premise. What matters here is not simply that the cast has changed, but that the show has changed what kind of story it tells, without ever telling the audience that it has done so. The title remains the same. The format appears intact, but the centre of gravity has shifted. This is the moment the Avengers discovers its real survival strategy. It can shed its skin and keep walking. If Cathy Gale is the first pivot, Emma Peel is the full transformation. By the time Emma Peel arrives, the Avengers no longer resembles a conventional crime series at all. The show embraces stylisation, wit and fantasy, and eventually colour. Threats become playful, villains become theatrical, and realism is no longer the point. And yet, and this is crucial, the programme still insists it is the same show. Steed remains, the title remains, the rhythm of partnership remains, but everything else has been recalibrated. This version of the Avengers is not concerned with plausibility or social realism. It is concerned with tone. The success of the Emma Peel era cements the programme's unspoken rule. The partner defines the show. Different viewers remember different Avengers because they are remembering genuinely different experiences. Someone whose Avengers is Cathy Gale is not watching the same programme as someone whose Avengers is Emma Peel. The show has changed its emotional contract with the audience while pretending that it hasn't. This is silent reinvention at its most confident. By the time Tara King arrives, the strategy begins to strain. The format remains recognisable. Steed is still present. The episodes still resemble the Avengers in structure, but the confidence has ebbed. Tara King represents an attempt to refresh the dynamic without fundamentally rethinking the programme again. This is where the show reveals the limits of its method. You can only reinvent quietly so many times before the machinery becomes visible. The programme hasn't failed exactly, but it has exhausted the flexibility that once kept it alive. What's important here is that the decline isn't caused by cast change itself. It's caused by the absence of a new, decisive transformation. The earlier eras worked because each change was also a redefinition. Here, the redefinition doesn't fully arrive. The Avengers hasn't forgotten how to change. It has simply run out of room to do so unnoticed. One of the most striking things about the Avengers is that it solves a problem before British television has really named it. The programme changes its effective lead structure years before Doctor Who famously regenerates its central character. But where Doctor Who makes change explicit, building an explanation into the narrative, the Avengers does the opposite. It hides the change, or at least downplays it. It behaves as though continuity were unbroken. This tells us something important about the show's philosophy. The Avengers does not want its audience thinking about structure. It wants them thinking about style and companionship. Steed's presence reassures the viewer that they are still watching the same programme, even when that reassurance is quietly misleading. This is why discussions of the Avengers often slide past one another. People aren't disagreeing about interpretation, they're remembering different shows under the same name. The genius of the Avengers isn't that it lasted so long, or that it looked so distinctive, or that it travelled so well internationally, all of which it did. It's that it discovered early on how television could survive disruption without acknowledging it. It learned that a series could change its lead, its tone, and its identity while keeping its badge intact. That's not an accident, it's a method. And it explains both the programme's longevity and its eventual exhaustion. Reinvention kept the Avengers alive, but reinvention without recognition can only go so far. In the end, the Avengers didn't fail because it changed too much. It just ended because it could no longer change quietly enough. Thanks very much for listening. I do appreciate that. And I will be back on another day with another television show. Bye.